Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So we're at Slog today, as you can see, and we're going to work on some walls. Specifically, a lot of walls, and rather detailed ones. So I'm going to start by pulling out a few bits and pieces. These rattier bits and pieces in particular. And we're going to shore up the existing walls, or the existing fences I should say. So the idea is that we've got sort of the main area here where the pool is and where the field is behind us. That's sort of the main area that the ghouls occupy, and that's going to be the bare little area. And we've got this large sort of space off to the left here that I'm going to use for a more public area. So we're going to sort of follow the existing lines and reinforce things quite a bit. There's also going to be quite a detailed sort of set of walls. We're going to put a lot of different textures, a lot of different things in there, and try to create something a bit different. First things first, start off with some junk fences, which are fairly standard, admittedly. We're going to follow the line of the chain link here and just sort of glitch it through. That way we can sort of see what we're doing, and it makes it a lot easier to line things up. As if we pull them out first, it becomes a lot harder to keep a straight line. And we can also, by glitching them together, get a slight variation in the textures and stuff as well. That makes things a little more interesting. The one drawback to this, of course, is that as you can see, my size bar is beginning at, like, what are we there? 2/3? And we're going to add a lot of items with these walls, so we're very, very quickly, before even the end of this video, hit the full size bar. And I've barely even started, so it's going to be something of a problem if you don't pull these things out. It's a sort of technique that will probably be more effective at either a small section rather, of a much larger settlement, or a larger settlement in general perhaps. But I do encounter a few frame rate issues towards the end, which is a little unfortunate as I've barely started. We shall push on and see what we can do. So the idea with this particular piece is just to sort of line it up with the edge of the concrete there, make sure it doesn't look like it's floating. That will do quite nicely. There we go. So I've already put down a load of varying half walls and different textures and things. It's one of the easiest ways of doing this. We're just going to now group select and occasionally rug glitch, and on some occasions just put them directly into place. It's not everything is fussy about where it gets placed. This one's a little awkward. So we'll grab the rug with the pillar and just move it in. As it turns out, I didn't really need to use the pillar because the rug ends up sitting just sort of on the surface of the concrete there anyway. It would have cooperated just fine, but in some places you do need to use the pillar, some places you don't need to use anything at all, so it works. That's the main thing. We'll tweak that ever so slightly and line it up. There you go. See, didn't need the pillar at all. So the thing with this is that you can put just about anything in there, and there's a vast range, especially if you've got all the mods running that I've got, so particularly even just USA. You can mix and match so many different textures, so many different styles. You can literally add and add and add and keep building to this and add more and more detail as time. Well, basically indefinitely, more or less. But as I say, we do have the slight frame rate issue with the massive number of individual pieces that the game's trying to cope with. This is one of the joys of being on console, unfortunately. That and trying to minutely adjust these things anyway with the controller. It's always fun. There we go. I'll stick a half-height wall in there just to round things off with. Yep, didn't even need to glitch that one. So courtesy of scrap that settlement, I can do that. Which, that door in there doesn't actually do anything, it's just sort of... to be honest, I'm not even sure why it's there at all. You can't see it when the plywood's on there. Now we've pulled it out, we can put another door in there and use that as our entrance into the main area here. So I'm going to swap the door piece out that I put here, replace it with this tyre-filled wall section, which is slightly awkward because obviously that right-hand end is a lot thicker. But slight adjustment we'll get there. There we go. So it looks okay like that, but the problem is when we come around the other side, you see it sticks out a very long way on this side, which is fine. There's plenty of room to get round, but I didn't really like it. So straighten it up this way, which leaves a bit of overhang. And this bit here is basically why it takes me so long to do these darn things. This took me, yeah, far too long. And largely being that I'm kind of obsessed with the tiny details like this, so we're going to prop up that front corner, even though we probably don't really need to. Should do the job. And I eventually find the rug. There we go. Just nudge it underneath. And I'm using the 2 rather than the 1 on the top. There we go. So, going to use a few of Aslam's junk wall pack items as well, and various other bits and pieces, and vehicles and all sorts, just to keep mixing up things and keep things as different as possible and get as much variety in there as possible. So, I'll lift this rug up in the air a bit, and drop this straight on there. It's quite cooperative actually. And I decided that I wanted to keep this tree in, and I have absolutely no idea why, but there we go, I just did. But it gives us a target to aim at, so we'll line it up with the corner there and then plug the gap. Something else you can do literally for hours on end if you really want. Just keep plugging up little gaps here and there to make it look more and more secure. Which I suppose the settlers would end up doing over time anyway, but as I say, the more you put in, the more it hits your size bar and your frame rate. However, some areas like this just look like anybody could just hop right over them and definitely need shoring up a bit. So let's get that scrap of chain link in there. There we go. So over this side I'm going to use a technique I used on my glowing sea build. Remember the words. And it came out quite well in that, and I quite like the way it looks on this one as well. Relatively easy. Just going to put this truck in there. Lorry, I suppose, that's the word I'm looking for. Line that up towards the edge. And we're now going to rug glitch in one of the trailers. So we've got it on the rug already there. I'm actually using the version of this added by USO rather than the open one that's added by, I think, Wasteland Workshop, I believe. One of the DLC anyway, just because this one for some reason seems to cooperate with the rug glitch much more easily. In this instance, unfortunately, that's as far away as I can push the pillar, so it's a bit awkward to see what you're doing. Look along the length of the thing, make sure we line it up right, and there we go. So I'm going to skip over quite a lot of this, because once you've got the principles, you can basically do anything you like with it. And that's kind of the idea, really. So I'm just going to focus on the more interesting bits and some of the fun parts, like this. No glitching required. Pickup went straight on the top of it once I got it in place. So I've dropped a boss in as well. It was just another group select job, nice and easy. We're on to industrial catwalks. They're in and amongst all the scaffolding and ball tracks and stuff, if you've got USO. So, as I've never actually used these before, I thought I'd use them for sort of lookout posts, guard posts. Make things a little different from the norm. Seeing as we've all done walls many times. But settlement's not complete without them, at least in my opinion anyway. There are exceptions, I suppose. This is another USO retexture that we're using here. There's like think 4 or 5 different versions of this gate in there now. We'll just carefully line it up, get it overlapped a little bit. Use the chain link on the top to sort of establish where the edge of the actual opening part of the gate is. So, as long as that's not overlapping, it should look about right. And spoilers, it does. So we use the same principle just to line everything up with this one as well. Make sure it actually touches the ground as well. It's not too bad in this instance. And there we go. Now get some supports under there. So these are just the posts from the warehouse tab. They're just the simplest option for this. I did have a look through some of the others at the military tab and that sort of thing, but there's nothing really in there that works as effectively. Most things are in pairs rather than just sort of single posts. So they're a fixed distance apart, and it doesn't really work so well. Might have worked diagonally, I suppose. But still, easy enough. Straight in, there we go. I did think about putting a bridge between these two, but the headroom's a little low, so decided against it in the end. So I haven't used boxcars in absolutely ages. I thought we'd get a couple of these in. Something I've been meaning to do for a bit. So both of these pieces are closed off. The main piece has got stilts for support on it, but because of where it's going, that end piece, I've used the one that doesn't. And I think you can see why. Unfortunately, I did have a few collision issues. I did try to use the matching ones first, but yeah, it just didn't work out very well. But a little bit of group select. And in we go. Eventually. There's a slight gap there, but nothing a bit of a half wall can't fill up. So we're going to use this unsupported double height junk wall just to close up the outside edge of the boxcar. So you just snap a door straight on there, but settlers are notorious for opening doors, which leaves a nice big hole in it. So if we use this, they can't do that. And it effectively blocks up the bottom as well. So 2 birds with 1 stone. It's an added bonus given that it's one less thing I have to use. With regards to the size bar. So I'll just group select that in. Didn't need the rug for this one either. So line it up. Just using the top edge there to line it up with the sort of door frame on the boxcar. And then repeat with rug and pillar to block up the gaps either side. So I've used a retextured junk wall here, but you could use anything from the warehouse tab, which I've done in a couple of places, or even wooden walls and things like that if you want to. So the options are pretty much limitless. Although it would have been worth turning off Scrap That Settlement a little bit earlier, I think. Ended up doing it towards the end of this build, but it's causing all manner of issues with trying to group select the rug and sink the pillar in. It's just temperamental as hell. What was really annoying was I find a place where I could sink the pillar in, set up to do that with a chain of rugs or something, and then find myself unable to actually do it when I came to do it again later, which was driving me nuts. However, as we've got a little gap to fill and a little bit of support needed, and you guys enjoyed this one so much last time, I thought I'd use it again. So there we go, little stack of tires to prop that corner up. Dead easy.
Tighten this.
Yeah, get some steps on there. The easiest way to just line a couple of these up side by side is just to snap them straight to a floor piece and then take the floor piece away like that. Yeah, they're in the right position now. We can just move them all in. Yeah, that's much better than the standard ladder style, I should say. And a couple of the half walls, just on the edges there, just to follow the line of the stairs and create kind of railing, I suppose. I like the finished look on that, so it's quite cool. This particular tarp is, as with all the others, in the new cloth structures section of USO. There's some fairly cool things in there, but they're a bit awkward to work with most of the time. In this particular instance, conveniently, it went in just fine. But often as not, they're an absolute nightmare to work with. Well, we've got a slight floating post there, so I'll prop it up on some cinder blocks. Try and line up that crossbar with the bottom of the foot, I suppose, there. And there we go. Could have done with a plank or something on it, really, but it's going to look far too slapdash for the amount of effort it would take to do that. So, I'm going to move on to the back edge behind the pool, and I'm going to use these double height walls. This is pretty much, I think, the only other place I use them. A couple of little gaps here and there, but on the whole, I tend to avoid these because they just look so overbearing. But along that back edge, there's a little ridge just behind it. So you'll see it there. And the usual junk walls are not high enough to prevent anybody shooting over or potentially even taking a really long running jump. So for the purposes of headcanon, I'm going to use these tall ones. Again, it's just rug and pillar to get those in. This little section around the workbench is particularly awkward because the workbench is utterly unforgiving when it comes to its collision and clipping things into it. So you can see the rug just underneath there is getting in the way on this occasion, so I'll have to adjust the positioning a little bit. I'm using this unsupported one because I don't particularly want the legs clipping through the back of the workbench either. We'll push it a little bit to the left in a moment and sink it into that other junk wall next to it, and then repeat the procedure on the other side, so we haven't got too much in the ways of unsupported wall there. You know, it's sort of being 3 wide, I think, by the time I'm done. So there we go. Push that next one in and overlap it. Nice and easy to line up. There we go. Just take a look from the top there. Jobs are good. You barely even know there were 2 there if you didn't know, I suppose. So in this corner, as there's just behind these walls, you can see all those trees and things that I can't get rid of. It leaves the corner looking really messy and scrappy. So I've put a load of extra bits and pieces in there, and sort of pulled out some of the wire fences and replaced them with chain link, and generally just made it look like it's making use of what they have available. And we're going to shore that up a little bit with some random bits and pieces of furniture now. So we've got a vault locker, a little gap here. That piece on the left is another one of Aslam's junk walls. It's got a few of them scattered throughout the build in various places. There we go. Used one of the broken gates here, so we'll put this large shelf just in front of it. It's quite a solid piece. It should prevent access reasonably effectively. There we go. Another example of the random things you can find when you're hunting through the menus. It's a toilet stall, that one, or the middle wall from one. It fits quite nicely for that large surface area for the gap there. When it comes to walling this place off, this little corner is one of the most awkward ones to work with. So you can't really get a junk fence in there without sort of clipping it through the walls anyway. And the same goes for most other things, but a couple of bits and pieces of furniture on the other hand do quite a good job. So got those shelves or whatever they were supposed to be, kind of cabinet thing I suppose, and a fridge. Well, as anybody could just shove those out the way, we'll pile some stuff behind it. So got a washer and a dryer. I'm going to stick a bath on the top of it for no other reason than it just looks slightly amusing and is actually possible. Yep, there's the scrap that settlement getting in the way again. Debris on the floors catching on As I'm catching as I'm trying to select the pillar, rather. There we go. Group select rather that into place. Grab the lot. And line it up. And this is where the shortcomings of using a controller come in. Spent ages trying to precisely precision. Right, I can't even say that. Precisely position. There we go. I'll get there eventually. Tongue twister. Those. What even was I saying? Yeah, trying to put those things in place. But now we've got a slight bit of floating. I'm going to just move on from that. So I thought I'll put that board underneath just to make it look a little bit more like it's supported. If sort of by its own weight as much as anything else. There we go. Needed 2 rugs to get close enough, but it works. So, on to the final cool little thing before we have a look around the finished product. Thought we've got a slope here, it'd be nice to tidy it up and put a bit of a ramp in there. There we go, finally turned scrap the settlement off. So, I did want to use the angled junk walls added in USO, but the angles aren't quite right. They're either far too... well, they're all too steep. But the steeper wood roofs, shack roofs from the wood tab, sort of work considerably better, so that works quite well there. Got those lined up. This is just another one of the pallets, as unfortunately I can't remove the rug I used to position the gate with, so I need something a little bit shallower to go on the top there. Just get over the top of it, and that works well. One more stairs, a couple of small floor pieces. I'll sort of build a set of steps working up from the top of the ramp here. Unfortunately, with scrap that settlement off now, the bushes are slightly getting in the way and it's kind of hard to line things up properly, so it's ever so slightly off centre, but what can you do? Kind of works with the general scrappy look, so it doesn't look too out of place. There we go. Sometimes these stairs will sink through the floorboards and sometimes they just won't. It's a bit odd. If it was absolute in one way or the other, it'd be a lot simpler to work with in a sense, but see, there we go, now they'll sink in a bit more. Very strange. There we go, put a little bit of an angle on. And I'll just put some a few more stairs on the edge, as it's not quite level with the ground here. I don't really want to put another set of stairs in either, because it would be far too high then, so just snap those on the edge. We can do it around the sides as well, just to tidy up and to give the settlers as many pathing options as possible, as they are notoriously finicky. So, let's have a look at the finished product. And so I skipped over a huge amount of footage here. Probably a good, oh god knows, an hour more of stuff that I've cut out, plus time that I didn't even record, so you can literally spend as long as you like doing this. Oh, we've got a nice walled off area that we can build in subsequent videos. Yeah, Chuck doing a good job there. So I put an invisible rug up on the top of this, use group select to get it in there, just to provide a solid surface to put those boards down on. There's the top surface rather of that junk wall section doesn't actually, well, so as far as the game's concerned, doesn't exist. Can't actually put anything on there. That way we can position our guard up there. Guards are all added by USO, by the way, they just sort of spawn straight in there. They should stay where they're put, hopefully. Yeah, a little bit more they've shored up around here. Doc Weather's hanging out, because he seems to really like the slog. A little bit of seating area for now for our caravan hands. Looks like our cooking station is sinking in a little further, actually. And a few beds and a few more seats for them to chill out on as well. Yeah, through our little checkpoint. Unfortunately, this fellow always stays here. He's a quest giver. It does mean using this little shed of his for anything other than its original purpose is a bit awkward, but I'll have to assume he's just distracted and is supposed to be on guard duty. Yeah, that's the back wall. Those construction lights there are also a permanent fixture. You can't move them. I did try. Might possibly be group selectable, I'm not sure. I didn't think to try that until after I put the wall in, so there they shall remain. It's entirely possible if I do move them that the light source will still remain anyway, so there's a guard post on top of a shack foundation. That's another one of Aslam's pieces. There's a mixed bag here of Aslam's stuff and just random crap group selected in there. It's a nice junky sort of barricade. Moving on and using the same principle. I didn't want to overdo it with the junk walls, which is why it's this style rather than any other along here. And also with the sort of cliff edge against the river there, it's not the easiest angle to assault the place from anyway. Off the top of my head, I'm actually not sure where the spawn points are for this place. I should have to look them up. Yeah. I have group selected in a concrete wall there with a powered door. I just wanted something to close that off with, and well, I haven't wired it up yet. That means that we won't have anybody going in and out of there, but it still leaves the inhabitants with a method to get their goods out. I'm sure we'll probably build some sort of shipping dock on the front sort of patio here in some subsequent point in time. For now it's still looking a little bare. So we'll take a quick swing around and look at it from the outside. I really wish those platforms there on the right were actually inside the build area, but unfortunately they're not. The walls are pretty much pressed up right against it, so what can you do? Well, mod it I suppose, but I'm not going to. There you go. Especially if you're attacking uphill towards that, it'd be suitably defensible. Now I'm going to put some form of guard post in on this side, I think. What an interesting idea for that, I think. That'll have to be in a future video, because we are bringing things towards an end here. So I do hope that was interesting and useful to you. Covered an awful lot of stuff in a short space of time, so I hope I didn't skip past it too quickly. And thank you very much for watching as always. If you did enjoy, I'm sure you know what to do by now. As always, social media links are down in the description if you'd like to keep up to date with everything I'm doing. And I will be speaking to you all very, very soon.